What's up, brother? Welcome back into another episode of Where the Game Lives On, the official podcast of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. I'm going to turn my audio down a little bit. I think I'm a little loud there. Yeah, that's probably better. All right. Day of release is May 1st, 2024. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Noah Tucker, joined by the special guest, always special guest, Taylor Frederick. Thanks for helping cover for us here.
Always enjoy being here and filling in whenever I can.
I love what you say, man. The backup QB is probably the best position in sports.
Hey, you get called upon every once in a while, not a whole lot of pressure. But again, always kind of happy to fill in the big shoes.
Always kind of deliver too. Like you're kind of a good backup, honestly.
I told you that I always listen to it on repeat every night, so those views are optimal. No offense to whenever Byron's on, but that's what,
you can't do that. You can't do that.
I let my kids listen to it when they're going to sleep.
They don't listen to like the white noise. They listen to Dad on the podcast.
On repeat.
Oh my goodness. That's great. That's great. Okay. Maybe we've talked about this on here before. I don't think a backup, like if I could like play any professional sport, like any position or whatever, I don't think I would pick a backup QB. I don't think I would.
Okay, well then let's just put this into perspective. Who's going to be the backup quarterback in Atlanta this year? Right? We have
Michael Penix, you think.
Right, but of course, they're paying Kirk Cousins and they've already said that, right? But don't you know that once Kirk Cousins throws 2 interceptions in the first half of a game, the crowd is going to be just booing him and wanting Penix in there?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those things that, again, that's, not to completely dive in right to the draft, but again, that what a situation that is in Atlanta.
I found it interesting. I did. And of course, everybody was kind of referring back to like the cameras in their, in their war room or whatever. Right. About how like who was it, the GM was telling the owner like, this is why we're doing this, like while the pick is going in, so it was kind of odd.
Yeah, kind of odd, timing odd. Obviously it seems like they were transparent in some ways of telling Cousins that they were going to draft a quarterback, maybe not this year, certainly not in the top 10. But again, to kind of have a contingency plan, I do understand that aspect of it. But again, there was some maneuvering in there that probably could have been done by the front office. You could probably have leveraged some picks, by moving back and still have got Michael Penix, right?
You think?
Because, I think that the Jets picked after them at pick 9, right? Yeah. Well, that the Jets, you knew the Jets weren't going to draft a quarterback at 9.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it just interesting moves by the front office. I saw kind of the grade sheet for all the teams, and everybody has Atlanta near the bottom of the draft ranking. So who knows? It may work out for them, but questionable decision at best.
I did see the last time that they took a left-handed quarterback in the top 10 was Michael Vick.
Michael Vick, yeah.
Which, like, that's just a quaint parallel. It doesn't mean anything whatsoever. Right. I think Penix is a good player. Obviously, everybody talks about the injuries. That you can't overlook that.
Right.
I also don't love. I don't love his arm motion. It seems kind of long, seems kind of slow to me. But I think he can dot the ball. I really do. I think he can just put it where he wants all across the field. I just don't love the whole sign this guy for a 4-year, $180 million contract, and then we're going to go draft a QB on top of that.
Well, the rookie quarterback deal is the best contract in all of sports, right? I mean, especially if you have a good one. And again, I know that's so hit and miss, but again, if you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, like some of these guys who are seemingly going to come in and start right away, right? Like take, for instance, Chicago, right? They have Caleb they dump Justin Fields. They get him out of there. They have Caleb Williams now at 1. And instead of, they have all this lucrative money now that they don't have to pay a star quarterback, and they can go put pieces around Caleb Williams, which is exactly what they have done in the offseason. Now in Atlanta, you are paying a premium for a veteran quarterback. And you've got this rookie contract as well that's sitting there. So you can't really go out and put pieces around Kurt. It just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it was that thought out.
It's super twofold. You can look at it from one lens and be like, oh, they're trying to win right now. But then you can look at it like, no, they're more so focused on setting up for the future.
Right. And which is it? Like, if some teams operate under those short windows of, hey, let's try to kind of put all of our eggs in basket to be, really good for a 2-year window.
Yeah.
And again, that's,
smaller teams.
Exactly. Smaller market teams you see doing that. But, the interesting move, just an interesting move.
So let's go around just a couple of stops real quick. Minnesota. Are you starting Sam Darnold or are you starting JJ McCarthy?
I mean, the rookie quarterback, again, like we kind of talked about, is hit and miss. Not everybody's going to be CJ, right? That's, Stroud last year just translate, perfect most of the time, right? Even our boy Mahomes, right? He didn't come into the league and start right away. He sat behind, Alex Smith. So, I would lean to say you're going to have to go with a veteran in most of those cases.
Do you consider Sam Darnold a veteran?
More so than JJ McCarthy.
Absolutely.
I guess.
Absolutely. I'm just saying, like,
how long has he been in the league? I mean,
and the weird thing is he's only like 26.
Really?
25,
yeah. So I mean, and there's a lot of those, a lot of those quarterbacks who are, kind of like that, who, might, as the youth movement in sports and quarterbacks and whatnot continues to happen, there might be some of those guys who kind of get lost in the quarterback market over the next couple of years. I mean, you saw it, 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, so again, that either shows it was one heck of a quarterback class, which you could argue that, of course, being the case, or again, just the perennial youth movement amongst NFL teams and getting younger at that position just to be able to build around. And I mean, look at Brock Purdy. Yeah. Right. He's another perfect example of somebody who's on now. I think he signed a deal this summer, or is in line to sign a deal. They were able to go get, Ayuk and pay Christian McCaffrey and pay all these stud defensive players. And again, off that lucrative rookie quarterback contract. Yeah. And, if you talk about being good in a short window, those are your short windows that you could be really good at. You could be really good. So
I've never been a fan of Sam Darnold. I don't like his face. I don't like his game. I don't think he's a better QB than JJ McCarthy, but I think in terms of NFL production at this point, I think you got to start Darnold. I do. I think McCarthy will be their future, but you talk about Mahomes. They did it with Jordan Love. They did it with Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre. That's probably what the Falcons are thinking with Michael Penix. That is the blueprint people are trying to follow now. Bring in a rookie QB that you think can be promising and let him sit, let him learn, let him adjust,
We might be sitting here in a couple years and going, Arthur Blank in the front office of Atlanta, pulled a chess move on us whenever everybody was sitting here going, you guys are a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, we're all playing checkers over here.
So again, that's that's why those guys get paid to make those decisions. So, and we just get to judge them on it.
So one more I wanted to look at. If you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, are you starting Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? Russell
Wilson. I mean, that's apparent. They went out and got, I think that Fields was kind of a product of the acquisition of Fields was just a kind of a product of him becoming available, offloaded, I guess. Yeah.
Just getting offloaded.
And it seems like they kind of went out after, seemingly sought after Russell, a little more in terms of bidding wars or whatever, although he's making nothing, isn't he? And Russell.
It's very small. Yeah, very, compared to what he's making in Denver.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Denver's paying
half the salary. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think that I think I saw that they have to, Pittsburgh has to pay him like like $2 million or something like that, which is obviously peanuts compared to what he was once making.
I'm going to disagree with you on this one though. I really think I would go with Justin Fields. Russell Wilson, yes, you go back to the veteran talk, but I think he is a guy who thrived under Pete Carroll. I think he's well past his prime. And I think he's just lost his confidence as a player. I think he really has lost his confidence in his abilities. And I don't think... So there's two levels of good quarterbacks. There is a guy who makes everybody around him better because he's that good. And then there's the guy who needs the pieces around him to look that good. I think Russell Wilson is the latter there. So I think you need a guy like Justin Fields who is in the same category, but I would say is closer to making guys around him better because he can run so much and he can extend plays. And let's be honest, you're going to get more success out of him long term if it's a fit. It's a fit. I don't know if they have the pieces offensively though to just be a dominant team like that, even with a Fields or a Wilson. Like what I'm trying to say is I don't think it's a great situation for either of them, but I think it will be an open competition.
I agree with, and the thing that's even just above and beyond internally there as well. They play in a really tough division. It's
probably the best in football.
So all of a sudden too, like you're sitting there and you're not only having to make decisions internally, but look at who, you look at who you're playing, twice a year.
Yeah.
Some of those, how does Wilson, stack up to Baltimore, to Cleveland's defense really good really good last year.
Yeah.
And obviously, Joe Burrow and the Bengals look a little bit different this year.
He's healthy,
healthy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just a really, really good division. So, you got to look, I guess, how you stack up against some of those teams. And you're right, Justin Fields is, brings a little bit more elusiveness, I think, to the game than, not that Russell Wilson doesn't, because that's kind of been a part of his game as well.
Yeah.
But again, it's not to go back to it, but just even the youth, right? I mean, Russell's been, veteran, sure, but again, that Justin Fields, he was drafted in like 21, right? 20?
It's been recent.
Yeah, something like, so again, he's a young man with a lot of football years ahead of him. So
absolutely. Now let's shift gears here. Obviously we haven't gotten to the Kansas City Chiefs yet. I looked like an idiot because I've been saying for weeks on here that the Chiefs would take offensive line in the first round. They surprised everybody and went after what everyone has said they need. So they trade up, they get the wide receiver. And then obviously continue to make moves throughout the last 2 days. Where do you think they're sitting right now in terms of addressing the needs post-draft?
I think that everybody should just hammer the Chiefs to win the third Super Bowl in a row. After
you're already picking them the
favorite. Honestly, I think that the first, again, the Chiefs love speed, and boy, did they get speed.
Yeah.
So again. I think that they're addressing some things. You saw Mahomes on Twitter just talking about, making jokes. Ha ha ha. Brett Veach is awesome. For just those little move ups. Getting tackles and just addressing some needs. A couple days ago, again, you sign Kelsey to a little extension. Again, it seems like the offseason is firing on all cylinders in Kansas.
Definitely better than the Dallas Cowboys, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, shout out to our Missouri guy and Ezekiel Elliott. I guess getting back to Dallas. Kind
of weird, but
definitely kind of weird. I did not necessarily see that coming, but always nice, keeping an eye on those Missouri-born guys in the NFL.
Did you watch the draft throughout the weekend?
I really didn't. I mean, I was joking with Whitney whenever the first round was on. the picks are released on Twitter faster than they are on the broadcast. So I found myself just sitting on Twitter waiting for insiders to kind of release things on the first round. But I kind of took that route on the second round, right? I didn't sit there and watch it. I wasn't streaming it. I wasn't sitting there kind of watching the pick clock. But I did pick up on, the Schefter's tweets and things like that whenever, whether it would be a trade or kind of a big pick, whether it be a Wolverine, Michigan Wolverine national champion getting picked or whatever in the later rounds. So I saw some of those, kind of things come across the timeline, but didn't really watch it a whole lot.
Watch day one. And then I just kind of follow up on the next few days. You get a notification. Right. For every
exactly.
So I would go through, look through the picks. I've got them pulled up here in terms of what the Chiefs did. Again, was surprised that they went with Worthy in the first round and that they traded up to get him. A lot of people speculated how stupid that was for the Bills to let them do that.
Well, but Buffalo has just, let Kansas City it
doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
They again, you go back to the Mahomes deal. The Chiefs traded with Buffalo to get pick 10 in order to draft Patrick Mahomes. And now Buffalo has traded away basically everybody, which, mind you, if I'm Josh Allen, I'm pissed,
not happy right now. Yeah.
So there's that, and they so clearly needed a receiver. Not saying that he was a clear cut. Oh yeah, this is the guy you have to pick. But again, it's one of those things. Buffalo has had trouble getting over the hump against Kansas City. And there you are trading with your enemy, So again, that was kind of interesting with Buffalo.
So in terms of Worthy, I like the pick. I love the speed. Obviously, we are known for speed. The kid's got to get his weight up, though. Has to get his weight up. We've got two receivers like that now.
Getting open's only one part of it.
Yeah,
right?
Marquise Brown is very similar type of receiver. I would say is Worthy. Worthy may be a little bit more aggressive at the catch already, but he needs to get his weight up. I liked the O tackle that they got from BYU.
Yep.
I think that they got him great value at that pick. I think he could have gone a lot earlier. A lot of people speculated the tight end pick, but that's where that guy was supposed to go. The TCU kid, the Wiley kid, and if you watch his tape, you think he's a receiver because he is the modern era tight end. He's like Travis Kelce. He lines up in the slot all the time. They'll put him out at TCU. They'd put him out on the edge and they'd throw him back shoulder fades. You know what I mean? So we just signed him to a 2-year extension. Is that the last 2 years we've got of him?
You've got to think that. But what's hard to argue though is Kelsey's production, right? He's getting old. Got to start kind of thinking for that next phase, but
he's almost the leading receiver every year.
So and now obviously he's a primetime target like that. That is what it is. But hey, any of these guys, whether it be whether it be late round tight ends or first round draft picks, on the offensive side at a skill position, right?
Yeah.
I think that you have the ability with Andy Reid's play calling, package that everybody might have a chance, to get in there. Now, some might have more snaps than the others, sure. But again, I think any of those guys might see snaps this year. And, hey, you saw it, talk about people, kind of like the rookie quarterback thing like we were talking about before. Our boy Patrick is kind of taking the Tom Brady contract approach and continuing to restructure things. Get me guys to throw the ball, to. And again, that approach, has obviously paid off. And hopefully will continue to pay off.
Yeah. I love too that they get after the restructure, a lot of good draft picks. Then you sign Kelsey to the 2-year extension. How much longer does he play? I don't know. Here's the deal. 99% of people that play the game of football or any sport, they get told when they're done playing. Travis Kelce's good enough. He's going to play until he doesn't want to play anymore.
Yep.
So could it be 2 years? Could it be 6 years? If his body holds up, could be.
And again, not saying this happens. They win again next year. Couldn't you see him hanging it up?
Possibly.
That's Super Bowl number 4. You just won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Right off
It's kind of
into
the mountaintop.
right off into
Yeah.
the mountaintop as no question, especially if he has the production statistic wise as he has in the past, no question, best tight end of all time.
Yeah.
So again, that would be a great problem to have, I guess. But it of course will be a sad day in Chiefs Kingdom whenever that time. Put the man's jersey in the rafters immediately.
I hate to speak on behalf of our selection committees here, but without a doubt, we'll probably have a bronze bust here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly three guys, that are kind of on the on a no-brainer list,
the wait list, basically the wait list,
of Missouri sports legends and Kelsey, Mahomes, and of course Coach Reed. But hey, another one who's had a tremendous amount of success with the Chiefs is Chris Jones, so not to be lost on him either. So
yeah, getting back to their picks though, the kid they took in the late 4th round, the safety Jaden Hicks out of Washington State. I think he might be the pick of the draft. I mean, at least for the Chiefs, maybe not the entire draft, at least for the Chiefs. We're pretty shorn up at corner, I think, right now, which is kind of weird to say.
Yeah.
So I think he could come in and bring you that sort of back end depth.
Right.
Like I think he could play immediately, really, which is kind of, that's not what you expect out of a 4th round pick. You know what I mean? Sure, they're probably making the roster without any problems, but they're probably a special teams guy first couple of years, whatever. With all these nickel packages and so much back end stuff and how much passing is in the game, you've got to have DBs and you got to keep them fresh. And I really think that I didn't know the kid until I watched watched his actual draft pick and went back and watched they run the highlights of him. I was like, man, this kid, he probably could play whenever they have the versatility of positions and they can just be moved around the field and play a lot of different man, zone coverage, everything. I think it gives them a good chance to find the field.
I think and I think, one comment that I was going to say that you just said is, with the game evolving as it has over the past several years in terms of the NFL just airing it out, right? It seems like there are quarterbacks sometimes that are throwing the ball 50 times. 50 times a game. You got to have that depth at those positions. Though, that is a lot of run, on those D-backs. And again, anytime you have those interchangeable guys, that can, either play at the safety position, corner, whatever it is, that's obviously, that's huge. So,
yeah. What do you say we shift gears a little bit? You watched any NHL?
Not
NHL.
A little bit, not a whole lot. Have been kind of watching the NBA playoffs a little bit, not hugely, but I think it'll get a lot more competitive. The NBA playoffs will get a lot more competitive in these later rounds. I think there were some sweeps and some blowouts for most of the games, it seems like. So I'll be interested to see it kind of get into the later rounds and see the competition kind of bump up.
The only thing I probably keep in touch with is the LeBron legacy.
Yeah.
Throw that out the window, at least for this year. But I really think this year in the NBA, it's kind of shown me that there's a passing of the torch. A generation of NBA players is dying right now. The Stephs, the LeBrons, the KDs, that whole era of basketball, I think it's gone.
Yep.
I think it's the league is ran now by the Jason Tatums and the Carl or who's a kid from Minnesota. He's a stud.
Anthony Towns.
No, Anthony Edwards.
Oh, Anthony Edwards.
Edwards. Those kind of guys. Jokic.
22 years old stud.
My gosh, that is the league now.
Yep,
that's the league.
And it's hard. And I don't want to say that I don't accept it. And I'm certainly not going to say here. And I guess in some ways I'm the old head in that mentality of thinking like
it's a young league.
There's no way that LeBron and AD can lose. It's like Jamal Murray and Joker made those guys their puppets for five games, and again, toyed with them, and then just crushed them. It just and did it in heartbreaking fashion.
Yeah.
So
well, and then you have Bradley Beal, Booker, and KD getting swept like it was not like just cakewalk.
And those are the guys that you sit here and you see, and you're just like, oh, those guys, KD's not getting swept in a series, and meet the youth.
Yeah.
And here we are. But I completely agree. I think that this year, especially, in Oklahoma City, I mean, those guys are so young and so good. So again, set up for the future. And again, like, you're sitting here telling me that like Chet is going to be like a dominant force in the NBA whenever he was in college. Like, I mean, just he's
him and Wemby. Like,
I mean, it's crazy. So again, I think there's a lot of interesting things, and there's going to be some movement this year. Everybody, not people oftentimes say that the NBA offseason is more entertaining than the actual season itself, just because there is so much movement. The Wembys of the world, you're right. There's going to be some people who are taking a look at some of those players in some of those markets and go, hey, like, whether it be there Orlando, right? There's a lot of youth in Orlando. Some,
I didn't even realize they made the playoffs.
Right. And like, again,
what?
with a bunch of guys who you're like, what? And
and they have the G League MVP sitting down there.
So it's
they haven't even brought up Matt McClung yet.
So it, I mean, I think you're exactly right. There's just kind of a passing of the torch, and, I think you could almost even kind of see it, in that Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant exchange whenever, Anthony Edwards hit one in KD's face and Anthony's jawing at him, kind of like, my league now. Like, you're old, you're old. So again, and you kind of saw KD kind of laughing because you knew or know that KD was jawing at the guys just like Anthony Edwards was 12 years ago, whenever he was in Oklahoma City with those young guys. So
I won't lie. Whenever it was post-game press conference with LeBron, I'm not even like I'm not a diehard basketball fan, but in terms of how he's impacted the game, the legacy he's created, he made a comment to somebody, and I can't remember word for word what the question was, but just about how he's handling the loss and the outlook of his career right now and everything. And he said, at the end of the day, it's just basketball. And I was just like, man, that kind of hit me. I was like, that's like one of the best basketball players of all time at a point in his career where he's like, just basketball.
Sure.
I'm like, dang, man.
And, I think that in his eyes, I don't, I think that he's obviously on the court accomplished. The only thing that's going to add to it is more rings, right? I mean, he can't really accomplish much more statistically out there that's going to make anybody say, oh yeah, now he's the greatest because he's first in this category opposed to second or third or, whatever it is. But yeah, I have always been a LeBron fan ever since he kind of came into the picture of things. I've always, kind of been somebody, I loved watching Tom Brady compete. He was somebody that I always have kind of wanted to grow up with the best, right? Yeah. Viewing the best. So that was really fun to grow up, in that era of LeBron, kind of dominating the basketball world for such a long time. And who knows what's going to happen with him. I mean, the loss a couple nights ago, to the Nuggets, they probably should have been swept, but he was awfully coy on his future in Los Angeles. He was asked after the game, if you think, have you ever put any thought into this being your last game with the Lakers? And he sat there in silence and said, not going to answer that. So again, there could be a seismic shift, in the NBA in the offseason.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how I feel about that either. I mean, he's going to do what he wants. Obviously, it's the modern NBA is a little bit different. You think of Jordan, and he only played with the Bulls for the most part. Ended up playing with the Wizards too. But now Braun's made 4 different stops, going to be looking at 5 possibly. And it's going to feel, if things transpire the way they are, where somebody takes Bronny and he goes and plays 1 year with them, and it's going to feel like a Jordan in DC type of feel.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that we could have like a Bill Belichick situation on our hands? And again, I'm just asking this for the sake of the question. What's to say there's going to be a huge market for LeBron? Right?
Yeah.
Like with all of this, we just sat here and talked about the youth movement. Obviously there's going to be teams out there who would take on LeBron just for the profile, the media, the everything that comes around it. But right, are there going to be 29 teams that are beating down LeBron's door to, for him to come? Are you really going to want to jeopardize, if you're, or even, let's take LeBron out of it. Let's switch to KD, right?
Yeah.
Are you really going to blow up Oklahoma City to bring back KD? I wouldn't if I make, based on what I'm seeing this year on the floor. So, that's another thing too, is, that you don't have LeBron for a long time, or KD for a long time. I mean, I'm sure that KD probably, some of those guys probably looking in the mirror and going, I don't like getting swept.
Yeah.
How much longer should we keep doing this? Right.
Yeah.
It's just basketball.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think that there will be, it's just PR, man. It's just publicity. I think there's going to be a less talented team who has a late second round pick that doesn't have all those pieces, and they know that they're in rebuild.
Right.
Whether it's Indiana Pacers.
I was about to say Indiana would be a good Indiana would be a good
or
one.
maybe like the Houston Rockets or something, right? Who have young talent, but they're not really seeing results yet. I think somebody would take Bronny, knowing that they're just going to get ticket sales because LeBron's going to come, and then they might come off the bench.
Yeah.
You might just have the two of them coming off the bench, and yet you're still packing the house because of that.
And I mean, again, like I said, that with LeBron comes the circus, right?
Yeah.
Everything around it, and there's no doubt about that.
And you probably know it's only going to be for 1 year.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So like all of a sudden, like what do you do in that? And like that's why I ask again. I'm sure there's going to be more teams that would want to sign a LeBron and a KD than wouldn't. But at the same time, I just ask that because again, is that really the direction that some of these teams want to go that are favorable destinations to? LeBron's not going to Portland. Like, I'm sorry, that just not not going to happen.
Yeah.
So like, some of these decisions, whether, who knows, obviously it has to be kind of two sides meeting and, making decisions on that. But, it'll be interesting to see. And we're sitting here talking about the next season, and in this year's playoffs are still like in the thick of things.
Who's winning it?
Oh, I mean, how can Denver not? I mean, gosh, the Boston looked really, really good. And another thing too with, I think they're just so similar. I think that'd be a heck of a finals, getting to see, Boston and Denver duke it out. I think those are kind of, who I want to at least see. But man, Denver's really good. But hey, and one of those things, keeping an eye on Missouri-born talent would always be, kind of a cool thing to see. Jason Tatum, Michael Porter. Yeah, hey, there a couple, and he got his last year. He got his last year. But having somebody like Boston, who's kind of slipped in the playoffs the past several years, kind of seeing them get over the hump, I think that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, Boston's who I'm going with. So
yep,
I agree. I think that's the only thing for Tatum right now is people talk about his playoff performance too.
Yeah,
so he kind of needs to just shore that up and
shut him up.
Yeah,
yep.
Really. All right. Well, we've come to the end of our time. We thank you for joining us. If you've made it this far in the episode, just be sure to drop a like, leave a review, share it with your friends. We're always looking to grow our listeners, and we appreciate you joining us. New episodes every Wednesday, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube TV. Taylor, thanks for joining us.
Always happy to do it.
I had to catch my breath there. We're a little over time.
That was long winded.
It was. But thank you again. We'll see you next time on another episode of Where the Game Lives On.